Hey, good morning everybody. Welcome to another Coffee Talk Ramble. This video you are watching is of my condo yesterday, Sunday, August 4th. As you can see, I'm going out to show you the patio. In a minute, you'll see the screen that I told you about that the palm branch ruined and I have to have fixed. But look at this weather. I think I shared with you guys that I live in Florida, and so, hey, it's that time of year again where there are threats of hurricanes. And, living in Florida comes with its own share of risks, I think, and it's only getting worse. So welcome to this Coffee Talk Ramble. I'm Evan Thomas. I hope you enjoy this episode. Cheers. It's about 7:18 on Monday, August 5th. And I have been up several times during the night monitoring Hurricane Debbie, which some of you may know is currently hitting North Florida, South Georgia. So as you can see, here we are in my condo, starting to get light out a little bit. I mean, you may be able to hear the rain. Maybe it's relaxing. But I just thought I'd pop in on a Monday and have a coffee talk ramble with you and share with you how stressful this has been living in the state of Florida for 21 years of home ownership of this condo. Because that's when it really got stressful living here. I've been here since I was 24 years old in 1990, and I rented apartments. And when you rent apartments, who cares if a hurricane comes through? And when I was a lot younger, the hurricane risk was not as great as it is now. Although in 1985, Hurricane Elena came through Florida and stalled out in the bay, Tampa Bay, for 3 or 4 days and just sat there and created all this rain, flooding. My mom and her husband were living in Safety Harbor at the time, near Clearwater, Florida. And my brother and I used to come down to Florida while we were in college over summer breaks and winter breaks during the holidays to stay with them. And that's when I first had my first experience of a hurricane. But again, I was not a homeowner. My mom, of course, was running around the house and my brother taping up all the windows. But it wasn't until I bought this condo in 2003 that I started to feel the threat of being very vulnerable and living somewhere and accepting that risk. So let me back up and tell you the story. And by the way, I hope you're relaxed and enjoying this bonus episode. Can you hear that rain and the wind? It's still barreling through here. And, I'll get to that in a minute, but there could be flash flooding. So let me back up. 2003, you guys know I bought this condo. My mom at the set time said, you know what, when you're 80 years old, you don't want to be going up and down those stairs, so maybe you should buy on the first floor. I said, okay, but I live so close to the water. At that time, I really wasn't thinking about hurricanes that much. I knew it was a risk of flooding, but I said to myself, you're going to have to be okay with taking the risk. So I bought this place. I'm on the first floor. And then what happens next? 2004, for all of you that are hurricane buffs, you may know that there were 4 hurricanes that came through Florida: Francis, Jean, Ivan, Charlie. So, all in September of 2004. I remember I was so scared that the floodwaters would come into my condo. I used to tease people at work and say, you know what, I'm going to buy all inflatable furniture so that it'll just float and I can just go out into the bay. Or I'm going to bubble wrap everything. And then, of course, in 2005, we have what? Hurricane Katrina, which devastates Louisiana. I've talked about those Katrina quarters that I have, remember? But here's what I want to share with you in today's episode, is that, do you guys remember what my philosophy is when it comes to home ownership? It doesn't have to be your philosophy, but do you remember what mine is? I believe in the one and done philosophy. Buy a condo or home once, and then I never had to do it again. Now, I didn't know if my life would take me off in different directions, which in that case I could have rented this out, but I never wanted to always think that I had to buy a bigger place, right? I've talked about that before. I never really wanted to always, again, think that I had to buy up, because then I would be falling into prey of what? What's it called again? Where you're always buying something that's more expensive. Lifestyle creep. Sorry, it's so early in the morning. So I bought this place once, one and done. Now, looking back, should I have probably bought on the 2nd or 3rd floor? I think so, because it has created a lot of stress. However, this is how I think about it. You guys know I paid off this condo in 2019. So right now, by the way, it's really hard to sell right now in Florida, I think I shared with you, so I don't want to sell. So selling is out of the picture. I have to ride the risk. So I say to myself, self, has it flooded in the 21 years that you've been here? No. Could it happen? Yes. And in fact, let's look back a little bit. Last year, 2023, Hurricane Idalia slammed into the coast of Florida, where this one, Debbie, just hit as well, but it was a Category 3. And because that hurricane hit so far north, the bands, I guess it's counterclockwise current of the bands, was pushing all of the water up into Tampa Bay. And so just outside of my condo on a street, it was completely flooded. It didn't make it high enough to come into my parking lot and flood my patio and potentially into my living room, which in case I would call this grouper campground. But that risk is there. In 1921 was the last time that Tampa Bay had a direct hit of a hurricane, and it was just north of me in Tarpon Springs. And then again, that current, the wind pushing the water, creating the storm surge, is what I worry about. I don't worry about wind. My condo that you're looking at right here is cement block, the way they used to build it years ago, where you take the cement and I don't even know what it's called. It's tiered or something, I don't know. But it's very strong. This building is not going anywhere, so I don't worry about it blowing over. Like some people I know have wood construction, and I would be more scared, I think, in a wood construction property because that could easily blow over. So my place is not going anywhere. I just have to worry about the risk of flooding. So I have 2 policies on this condo. I think I've shared with you. I have a flood policy through FEMA, which is about $600 a year, which covers contents of about $27,000. So I could replace that couch I told you about before if it floods, right, and gets damaged. So $27,000 of insurance to cover in the event of a flood. Plus we have a flood policy through my condo community that I told you about that went through the roof, no pun intended. So that would cover any structural damage to my property outside. And I have another policy as well through Universal that covers other things within my property. So I'm well insured. I just have to continue to ride the risk. Now, how can we relate this to money? Because this is a money episode or a money channel, right? So what I would like to say to you is that throughout your lifetime, as you get older and you start making decisions, you may have times where you buy things that you say to yourself, you're going to have to ride the risk. You made that decision for whatever reason, just like I made the decision to buy this property. Now, could I have sold when this property went sky through the roof in terms of how much it was worth? Yes. A couple years ago, I could have sold it for probably $225,000. It's a 1-bedroom, whereas right now I think it's going down because we have 5 1-bedroom properties for sale here because of that special assessment that I told you about, where I had to pay $10,000 this year to have the roofs replaced that you've been hearing in my episodes, which you're going to hear tonight, by the way. Because remember, I produced the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday episodes in advance. So you'll hear me say, hey, did you have a nice weekend? I did. Well, no, I did not have a nice weekend. It's been very stressful waiting for this hurricane to come because we never know if it's going to continue to go north or slam in to my area from the west, just like in 2022. Hurricane Ian was supposed to come to Tampa, but where did it go? Fort Myers. At the last minute, instead of going into Tampa, it turned and it hit Fort Myers. So I survived that storm, which could have been a detriment to my property. It almost certainly would have flooded. So, back to this episode and what you can learn from this episode as I ramble, and hopefully this is relaxing for you, is that, again, you're going to have times in your life where you're going to make financial decisions, and you're just going to have to say, you know what, we're going to have to weather any storm that comes, no pun intended there as well, and hunker down and ride the risk. It's kind of like in the stock market when you invest over a long period of time. You're continuing to put that money into your Roth IRA. You're continuing to put it into your 401k. Maybe you'll have a taxable account. Maybe you'll have a health savings account. And you just continue to do that year after year after year, and it will pay off in the long run. Just like if this place floods and I have to move out, it could be for months. Just imagine if a big hurricane comes here and all of these first floor units flood, as well as other homes and properties in this area flood. It'll take a long time to get that repaired, depending on how much water comes in through those French doors. It could be up to here. A 3-foot storm surge would be maybe here. 5-foot storm surge, 6 foot, 7, right? So I am close to the water. The water's right over there. And then what happens? Unlike New Orleans, where the water stayed for a long time, this would dissipate and it would leave. But then you would have drywall damage. All appliances would need to be replaced. So it would be a huge project. I would not be able to live here for multiple months. I have insurance where I could live somewhere else. It would pay for that. And I have friends, of course, that I could stay with as well. And I would just deal with it at that particular time. Because, again, we have to go back and look at history. Has it happened in the 21 years that I've been here? No. Is it more likely to happen in the next 21 years? Yes. Why? I mean, if you do the research, you'll see that, you will see that tropical storms are becoming more and more prevalent. They're stronger. They're superstorms because of global warming. The earth is getting warmer. The storms are getting larger, and they're getting more intense as they come up from Cuba north and they enter the Gulf of Mexico. Sometimes they go towards Louisiana. Sometimes they come towards Florida. You just never know. They very rarely make that turn quickly to the east and slam into Fort Myers like that one did 2 years ago. But it can happen. And these storms, again, are becoming larger, more intense, obviously more powerful. And so the risk is greater for this to happen in the next 20 years. Just like chances for recessions are greater with every several years that we go out, if that makes sense. The longer you go in a time horizon, the greater the risk, but the greater the reward in terms of finances too. If you're building your wealth, remember how I said that an 8% annual rate of return is going to be more achievable in a longer term that you're looking at, whereas a shorter term, because of a recession, could make that be lower. So I just look at this as the same way. I have many times thought of selling this property. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've called my friends and said, I'm selling, I'm going to get a realtor, I'm going to leave. After Katrina in 2005, I was really, really scared. And then see what happens is it's cyclical because hurricane season is June through November. And so once we get to November, I'm like, okay, I don't think about it. December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. It's only in August that I go to my iPhone and I start looking at the hurricane risk, right? There's an app I go to, and then the cone of uncertainty. I'm always like, uh-oh, is it coming? Is it not? Should I evacuate? Should I not? And so the reality is, I have some friends that I can go stay with and work from their place as well. So I always err on the side of leaving. I didn't leave with this hurricane because I knew it wasn't likely to hit my area. But as we move forward through the rest of August and September, I will probably definitely leave rather than, staying here and watching the water come in if it's a direct hit. Anyway, I wanted to share with you before I go. I have hurricane preparedness kind of stuff like this radio. It's a battery-powered radio. Has a little antenna. So if the power goes out, I will know what's going on, if of course I stay here. I have, of course, water, tons of water. Hopefully that's relaxing. Sorry, you probably hear my neighbor upstairs. Lord knows what's going on. That's what I hate about living in condos sometimes, is the noises from neighbors that you cannot escape. And finally, I have batteries. As you can see. Oh, one more thing. How could I forget? I'll leave you with this. I have my jet detectors. Yeah, these are actually good for when the power goes out. Remember this? By the way, you guys know I'm recording on my phone. It's only 7:38 a.m. And as I've been recording this, I've seen about 7 texts come in because all of my friends are wondering if I survived the hurricane. So cheers. I hope you enjoyed this Coffee Talk Ramble, and if you did, give me a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to my channel, I think you should be. And I hope you guys enjoyed this bonus episode that I'm producing on Monday, August 5th. Stay tuned for some episodes this evening and this week about women and money. So stay tuned a little bit later, and have a great day and evening if this is evening for you. Take care.